Now I'd like to welcome everybody back in to take part in today's roundtable discussion, um, during which we will be discussing a variety of events within the general theme of AI and pharma collaborations and R&D partnerships, including all of our speakers today. Um, my first question, which is an open question, everybody feel free to chime in. It's clear that 2020 was a major year of intensive activity in the AI and pharma collaboration partnership space. I'd be interested in hearing everybody's forecasts and predictions on what 2021 might be remembered for in terms of overarching significant developments in this space. Any takers? Perhaps you, Andre?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Franco. I would start this panel discussion just by sharing my thoughts on that. So 2021 is certainly going to be a different year from 2020 in many ways, because the kind of growth not only in AI but in general in the industry was the kind of growth that was in 2020 is is beyond any explanation, and it cannot last forever. That's for certain. And with, in general economic terms, I would say some kind of correction might occur in many markets. But AI is nonetheless is going to be growing, in my opinion, because primarily because this is a systems thing, not just an incremental thing. And it's going to be used by an increasing number of players. And even though the economy might be a little bit, or maybe substantially, hopefully not, stagnating, the application of things like AI will be increasing rapidly in 2021. And I guess we will see some mergers and acquisitions actually, and the number of them growing, because the pharma now will be competing in terms of growth, and they will be trying to kind of rapidly develop their not only drug pipelines but also technology, so to speak, pipelines to kind of dominate in the market.
Sorry, go ahead.
Add here, May. So I think it's unquestionable that we'll have more deals and collaborations and so on, but kind of it's more about quantity. And what's your thoughts about quality? So because we have more startups, we have more deals, and also I think you have more hype. And the question is kind of whether there is ongoing transition from quantity to quality, and how should we differentiate between really prospective ventures and projects and overhyped entities without any proof of efficiency in clinical trials, for example. And I think that at some point we'll have partial kind of bubble crash for overhyped startups, whereas there will be ongoing transition from quantity to quality. And in order to proceed with that, I think the whole analytics infrastructure in the industry must be kind of enhanced, really, compared to what is present in the industry now, just to keep in line with what happens in the R&D itself.
Interesting. And on the topic of hype, you mentioned hype in startups. Do you see any sort of particular skew in terms of quality of R&D and work in that space from startups versus the increasing number of corporations, such as pharma corporations and even tech corporations that are beginning to get increasingly active in this space?
I mean, there is certainly a growth. I mean, well, I'd like to connect on both questions, because you have touched upon a quite interesting topic. So the first the Ihor's question is the hype. And basically, it's indeed a lot of, I mean, everybody now is doing some kind of AI or at least advertising that thing. And it is indeed a problem, I guess. But in generally, we have been observing the space for quite some time now. And we see that there is a process of evolutionary process of, of sifting through the hype, because some startups, they do show publications, they constantly publish stuff, and basically they provide results in terms of technology validation, and also they partner with pharma companies, and I guess those are very tough on kind of checking the subject matter and doing some due diligence, etc. And we also do technical due diligence on a number of companies, and we see that leading companies right now in this area, they are actually very, very strong in terms of AI offering. But of course, there are some which went out of business even already. We have a number of companies who basically disappeared in this space. And of course, a lot of companies, they are just applying certain, algorithms and claiming that they have AI system. But we all know that AI is not just a small tool. It's not a Python library that you import to do some stuff. I mean, everybody does that. What we mean by the AI revolution in pharma is that the company builds a whole system, basically a loop where the experimental data is used back to train models, and the models then predict better, and then a new experiment is run, and etc. And this is all done possibly in some automatic way. This is what we call AI startup, AI company. It's not, I mean, just a company who uses, some machine learning stuff to in their desktop. Because in that case, even I can claim that I'm using AI because I'm doing some analytics with AI, but it's not that like I'm using it in the system. And then coming back to Franco's question, regarding the pharma companies, I guess it's much. A lot of pharma companies are now indeed trying to build in-house systems, AI systems. It's incredibly strong trend now, and pretty much the top 20 biggest pharma companies are doing this in some way, in some area. Let's say some of them are trying to apply AI for imaging, processing images, let's say for diagnostic stuff. Others are trying to apply for very basic biology research. I guess the biggest application case is, of course, literature mining data from literature. I guess NLP, natural language processing tools, are the biggest thing, because this is the most obvious, this most straightforward thing, to basically make sense of all the literature on the market. Yeah, but the point is, it's very difficult to rebuild existing process, especially in such a regulated areas, pharmaceutical industry. It's much easier to build actually the AI-driven approach from scratch, like some biotech startups are doing. I don't know, like in Silicon Medicine, for example, they started as AI company and they built around this technology from the very scratch. They didn't need to change anything in their approach because they were born this way. And similarly, like other companies in this area. And so pharma company primarily, I guess their strategy is to acquire or invest in those companies. That's the way to grow and acquire expertise rapidly, because pharma doesn't have enough time, I guess, to rebuild the whole thing. It's virtually impossible or very difficult. Is it answering your question, or maybe I missed?
Oh, certainly, yes, yeah. A very, a whole suite of insightful comments there, indeed. Now, it's fairly clear, at least to me, based on your most recent investment digest, the Deep Pharma investment digest, that the U.S. continues to dominate this space, both from an industry activity perspective and to some extent from an investor and funding perspective. I'd be interested to know if there are any other particular hotspots that are not, the U.S. That seem to be emerging as potential rivals down the road for the U.S. And again, this is an open question. Everybody feel free to chime in.
Anybody wants to comment? I mean, I can add just my observations that certainly China is shining right now. And I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I don't think I'm exposing some, some secret here. But indeed, China is investing a huge amount of money into this area, and with infrastructures and digital health, they kind of have access to data on actual patients. A country with more than 1 billion population, they have a lot of data even without partnering with anybody, so they have kind of unfair advantage in this. And this is one geographic area, and the other one is actually Canada. I would say Canada, because Canada is a cradle of of AI innovation. Like a number of top guys in this space, theoretical AI experts are from Canada, in fact. And I have written the article some time ago about startups in the Canada, and I was impressed by how many of them are there actually. So yeah, it's just
interesting. And you think that to some extent. Apologies, Gior. I was just going to note that it's interesting that you mentioned a density of AI specialists in Canada, and you would say indeed that is one aspect fueling the growth of Canada in this area, et cetera, that it's coming sort of bottom up from a identity of AI specialist perspective, because the whole notion of the AI race and the scarcity of AI specialists is something that I know that Deep Knowledge Analytics, through their AI and pharma department years ago, talked about and highlighted in certain reports.
I would also like to contribute to the question regarding regional distribution of the industry and Asia particularly. So we have issued recently investment digest, AI and pharma investment digest, dedicated particularly to the Asia, which you can also see on the Deep Pharma Intelligence website. And basically, yeah, it's not a secret if I tell you, yes, it's the market is booming there as well, and for some indicators, the growth even exceeds general global parameters. But of course, it is absolutely clear that the market is not yet as mature as in the United States or in Europe even, and especially public market is not mature at all. Basically, the only company which managed to go public in the previous year was Deep Longevity, and if you have which is also kind of connected with drug discovery, but focused more on the longevity industry. And basically, what we expect in the next few years is that the development of the general market infrastructure, especially public market infrastructure in Asia. And this will hopefully contribute to the growth of the industry there as well.
I would actually also like to add something regarding the different hubs, and I think it's always really important to keep track of all of the different spin-off and the areas where actually research excellence is happening. So I strongly believe also that kind of the Cambridge area, London and Oxford are also very well known when it comes to investments in especially drug discovery and all of the related areas. Simply because you actually already have also like the network and stuff, and yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that as well.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I would agree.
Indeed, it's nice to hear about the UK because Deep Pharma Intelligence is a UK-based company for the most part, so that's nice. Thank you for that, Christopher. Well, I'd love to continue this discussion. It's going quite well, and all of your counterpoised responses are quite insightful. But we're running out of time for today's event. So with that in mind, I'd like to share some closing remarks, if I may. Thank you all once again for joining us for today's event. This is just the first of a two-day, two-part event, so please keep that in mind. Thank you once again to all of our attendees, and particularly to all of our presenters and panelists today. It was very lovely having you. Once again, you're joining us today for Top Pharmaceutical Intelligence Deals in Market 2020 to 2021. In order to facilitate a broad discussion on major trends in the AI and pharma collaboration and partnership space. However, our follow-up event, at the same time tomorrow, March 3rd at 5 p.m. GMT, switches its focus away from collaboration and partnerships towards investment. So that event is titled Investment in M&A Deals, AI and Pharma Market 2021. We'll be joined by a number of expert panelists, including the majority of today's presenters, as well as Ian Inkster, who heads policy analytics at Aging Analytics Agency, and Deep Knowledge Group's general partner, Dmitry Kaminsky. And that event will essentially focus on key trends and takeaways in the AI and pharma investment landscape, drawing from key insights that are presented in Deep Pharma Intelligence's Investment Digest, which is available to interested viewers at deeppharma.tech/global investment digest. Once again, I'd like to remind our viewers to attend tomorrow's event if they're interested in receiving key investor-focused takeaways in this space, as well as to subscribe generally at the homepage of Deep Pharma Intelligence at www.deeppharma.tech in order to remain updated and appraised of further projects, releases, and the announcement of additional virtual online events focused on a variety of topics in the pharma and AI and pharma space. Thank you once again to everybody for attending today and for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.